Hi everyone, it's just Sanvita. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. So for today, I decided that I wanted to talk about my hijab story, how I came to love the hijab, how I came to feel confident while wearing the hijab, because that definitely hasn't always been the case. But in recent years, I've been able to confidently say that the hijab has made me feel happy and like myself. It's definitely taken me a few years to reach this point, so I thought that by sharing this story, it might encourage anyone that might be experiencing what I experienced to start wearing it too, inshallah. So to start, I'm going to be explaining what the hijab is. There's kind of like two parts of the hijab. The first part is like the physical item, so that's referred to as a veil or a scarf. It's actually the hijab that I'm wearing right now, so it's covering my hair. And the hijab is not just about the hair, it's about the entire physical being, so it's covering your body. And something that I don't think people talk about enough is that it's not just about covering the skin, it's about covering the body. This kind of helps me when I'm trying to figure out what to wear. It's, am I covering my body or am I wrapping my body? So the hijab is all about modesty, wearing loose fitted clothing that covers your chest, your bottom. So to start, I'm going to take you guys back all the way to grade 1. So I remember being in first grade and I didn't really know anything about the hijab. All I knew was that my mom wore it. All I remember is looking up at my mom and thinking, oh, I want to wear the hijab. Like, it was a conscious thought. I remember thinking that, like, oh, it's really pretty, I want to wear it. But I was too young to actually understand the significance and importance of it, so I didn't end up actually wearing the hijab until I was a bit older. So let's just move up a little bit to 3rd grade. In 2007, I moved to Egypt and I attended a very large school with a lot of students. I remember on the first day of class, I went into the building of the lobby and there were pictures on the walls of like the graduated students, right? There were so many girls there. And I remember my initial thought was, wow, not one girl is wearing the hijab. That's interesting. And it's crazy because as an 8-year-old, you might not think that's something that I would notice, but I did right away. I thought, wow, like the girls just don't wear the hijab here? That's weird. Okay, that was interesting to me. I just kept that kind of like in the back of my mind, and that thought didn't reoccur to me until I reached the age where I myself was going to wear it, because I actually attended that school for several years. So finally, it was the end of 7th grade, and at that point, I had conversations with my parents about the hijab, and they had really encouraged me to start wearing it because it seemed like the appropriate age for me. And unfortunately, I was filled with anxiety and stress because of the hijab. I just wasn't looking forward to wearing it. And what makes me really sad about this is that all of this was due to societal pressures. And as I said before, no one at that school wore the hijab, knowing that I would be one of the very few. I think there were maximum like 2 girls in the entire school. And I went to a very big school, thinking that I was going to be looked at as different, or maybe made fun of or ostracized. That really made me anxious and stressed, and that pushed me away from the hijab. During that time, I had older family members and cousins that I'm really close to, and they wear the hijab. They were telling me their stories about how they were going through what I went through, like similar feelings, and they just, ended up sticking through it and they wore it. But at that time, those stories weren't like making sense to me. I was just like, no, you're not telling me the truth. You're making this up because you want me to wear it. I don't believe you. And at the same time, I was just thinking, like, that's you, but that's not me. You don't know how I feel. And obviously they knew how I felt, but I was just too young and stubborn to really take their advice. Regardless of how I felt though, I still wanted to try and push myself because I knew it was the right thing. Ultimately, like I understood what was right about the hijab, and I understood that it was something that I should do. So I did try to stick through it. It was the first day of 8th grade and I thought it would be a great idea to start wearing the hijab. I remember this was also the year that I took off my glasses and started wearing contact lenses. I wanted to make the change, and I told a couple of my closest friends that I was going to start wearing the hijab, and they seemed very encouraging of me. When that day came and I went to school, only my best friend was kind of like treating me the same, but everyone else was kind of looking at me different. I remember I got called some names and it made me feel really bad because in a majority Muslim school, I was still looked at as different, and it didn't make sense to me because you would think it's normalized there, right? But unfortunately not in my school. I just felt really judged. I didn't feel accepted. I felt like I was receiving a lot of negative attention. That day I came home from school and I told my mom how I was feeling, and we decided that, you know what, maybe it'd be a better idea that I don't fully commit to it and go to school while wearing it, because I just wasn't comfortable. So we decided that it would be better for me to start wearing the hijab outside of school to get myself accustomed to it, and then inshallah one day I'd fully commit to it. And I was still really young, so I had hope that maybe it'll be easier. But unfortunately, since I was still in that environment where the hijab wasn't talked about positively, there was kind of no way for me to change my perspective and my opinion of it, because honestly, I was kind of, how do I explain? I was kind of like weak, you know? I was still really trying to conform to what people thought was popular and cool, and none of that actually mattered. But that's just obviously, you know, you're young, you want to be like everyone else, right? Ninth grade was probably the hardest for me. This was the year when my best friend moved away, and I felt kind of lonely, and I felt the need to join and fit into other friend groups, and those friend groups didn't really encourage the hijab or speak positively about the hijab either, so of course like that didn't help my situation. And once again, my family were very supportive. I never felt pressured, but I deep down knew that it was the right thing to do. I just didn't think that I was ready to wear it. I didn't want to wear it wrong, I wanted to wear it the right way, and I just didn't think that it was my time. I kept telling myself and telling my family, inshallah, like I will wear it, inshallah I will wear it one day, just not now, I'm not ready yet. However, the summer of 2014, I was 15 years old, and my family and I decided to move to Canada, and I was going to complete the rest of my high school here. And I think that was the best thing that ever happened to me. The change of environment really affected how I viewed the hijab. And not only did it affect how I viewed the hijab, it also affected how I viewed my religion, Islam. This was probably the best decision that my parents could have made. My siblings and I actually attended an Islamic school, and right away, I noticed a shift in my mindset. So once I went to the Islamic school, I was able to finally wear the hijab and feel a sense of community, because the other girls in my class wear it too, and they were all so encouraging and positive and no judgments. I finally felt like the reason why I wanted to wear it made sense. This is how I wanted to feel. I wanted to feel uplifted by my hijab, and I wanted to feel a sense of normality, and I did feel that, alhamdulillah. Now 8 years later, I can say that I still wear the hijab, alhamdulillah, and I hope to still wear it for the rest of my life. And I can also say, I think it's important to note that the people I met in grade 10 when I moved here, I'm still friends with all of them. They're still in my life. It's unfortunate that I was so concerned with the opinions of others that frankly, like, they didn't have my best interest at heart. I was just craving validation and attention when I was younger, and I think moving here was a really good thing for me. So something that I think isn't talked about as much in the hijabi community or the Muslim community, and that is modesty, and not just modesty in the physical sense, but modesty in every single aspect of your life. As a Muslim woman, I feel like it's my responsibility to conduct myself in a certain way in order to not be perceived incorrectly. There's things that I should be cautious about sharing or even acting in a certain way. The entire purpose of the hijab is to be modest physically, but I believe that can't be done correctly if verbally you aren't modest as well. Does that make sense? The way that I want people to view me matters, and not that I care about other people's opinions, but I want people to view me how I feel I'm accurately portraying myself. And of course, that can never be guaranteed. You never know how people look at you, but I believe that it's our duty as Muslim women to accurately portray ourselves in ways that align with our morals and values. You know, I put on the hijab because I believe it's the right thing that we should be doing, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked us to do this, right? So I want to do my best to respect that. I think that's just something that is not talked about as much in regards to the hijab, because it is important to obviously cover ourselves correctly, but if we aren't doing our best to make sure our actions and our behaviors are aligning with that, I don't think it's easy for you to feel confident while wearing the hijab. I need a little water break. So something that I hear a lot from hijabis, and something that I constantly used to say when I was younger, is one day I'll wear it, inshallah, one day when I'm ready I'm gonna wear it, you know? But what I've had to realize is that if I wasn't making the intention to get closer to Islam, to slowly build my way up to wearing the hijab, like covering my hair. So for example, if I wasn't properly dressing modestly and covering my body, what made me think that putting the hijab on would just suddenly become natural to me? I can't go from A to B if I'm not taking the steps to get there, you know? And not only that, but as I said before, working on my actual character, doing my best to strengthen my relationship with Islam, learn more about the hijab, and to talk to people who actually wear the hijab has helped me a lot. So for me, it was moving to Canada, changing my entire environment, finding a community of hijabi friends. That helped me a lot. But if I didn't do any of that, if I still stayed in Egypt and continued going to a school where no one wore it, what made me think that I would one day have the strength to commit to it and put it on properly? It just didn't really make sense for my situation, right? The hijab is a journey for all all of us, and we should all be respected while going through that journey. And as long as you have the intention to wear it, I think that's a really good start. And if you pray to God to make it easier for you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make it easier for you, because it is the right thing for you to do. I like to think of it like this, just as simple as this. There's things that we should be doing for ourselves that we know that are positive, right? For example, working out, reading more, keeping our room organized. Whatever that thing is for you, it might be very difficult for you to start, right? You might procrastinate because you just don't want to start it, although you know it's good for you. So while the hijab, just like any of those other things that I listed, might be difficult for you to start at first, I honestly believe that if you keep telling yourself that you're waiting for the right time, it will never come. If I keep saying I'm going to work out tomorrow, I'm never going to do it. I just need to start today, right? Same thing with the hijab. As I said before, I went on Instagram and asked some of my followers and my friends if they had any questions they wanted to ask me in regards to the hijab and my story, or just the hijab in general. And I'm just going to start by this question. It's, what is my favorite hijab material? Throughout the years, I've worn different materials. I've worn pashmina, jersey, cotton, and I've come to the conclusion that the hijab that I like the most is chiffon. It's actually what I'm wearing right now. It's just a very thin, flowy material, and I think it's the most flattering on me personally. When I was younger, I used to kind of do this style where you kind of wrap it around your head, and I don't know, I never felt like fully comfortable in that style because it was kind of hard to manage and it took the longest to do. This one kind of is pretty quick. I just put it on my head, pin it on both sides underneath the hijab cap so you can't really see the pins on the outside, and it just kind of wrap it behind my neck, try to cover anything that might be showing. And yeah, I find chiffon the easiest. I buy a lot of my chiffon hijabs from AliExpress. I don't really like buying them in store or on any online websites because they're kind of expensive, $15 for hijab. So if you can't find these in person or in a store, I would highly suggest just Googling AliExpress, whatever hijab material you personally like, it'll show up there. Another question that I got was what motivated me and inspired me to wear the hijab. What motivated me to wear it was my mom and my cousins and just anyone in my life that I saw wearing it. I viewed those women really highly. They were an embodiment of what I wanted to be like. They were literally my role models, so that's kind of what inspired me to wear it. Another question I got was, have you ever thought about taking it off? If so, how do you find the motivation to keep it on? Thankfully, for the past recent years, I haven't actually properly thought about that. That thought hasn't actually stuck in my mind. Sometimes, you know, you have like bad hijab days or have those days where you just think about, oh, like what if I didn't have to wear the hijab, you know? Those thoughts have obviously crossed my mind occasionally, but I don't let them sit there because I know that when I didn't wear the hijab, I didn't feel happy. Like there was just something missing inside of me. So how I find the motivation to keep it on? Honestly, I think it's just really the fact that when I wasn't wearing it, I was so concerned with how I looked like all the time. I was very self-absorbed in a way, very focused on my looks and just very shallow things about myself. But once I actually put it on, I think that's where the most growth in my personality and my development as a human being occurred. I didn't care so much about what other people thought, and it just made me really focus on what mattered, which was what's on the inside, being a better person, being a better role model. It is kind of a lot if you think about it this way, but I want to be like a positive representation of Islam. You know, like if you truly believe as a Muslim woman that the hijab is empowering, and if you want to fight against these misconceptions of the hijab, but you yourself don't truly believe it deep down, like you tell yourself, oh, I'm not ready, those kinds of things, I try to do my best to understand and to learn about the hijab, and that is what motivates me to keep it on. And I honestly feel like you should surround yourself with people who view it that way too, because if you're around people that also don't wear the hijab, or they're focused on like societal validation and conforming to norms, you're never going to feel the motivation to stick with it. So I think do your best to find a community that uplifts the hijab, talks positively about it, whether that be a friend or a mutual you have on Instagram, someone you knew, reach out to them. And I think that makes it easier, because I know that if I stayed in Egypt, I probably wouldn't have had the motivation to continue wearing it. So alhamdulillah, the friends that I made here contributed highly to why I still wear the hijab. Sorry, I could not say that word. Another question I got was, how is wearing the hijab now different than when you first started? When I first started, I didn't know how to wear the hijab. I didn't know what looks were flattering. I also didn't really know how to style myself, so that went hand in hand on how I felt about myself. And as I grew older and I kind of started to learn what I liked and what I thought looked good on me, that's when I started to feel more empowered and like confident. I think what's important to note is that as a hijabi, you don't need to compromise your fashion. Like I've never loved fashion more than in these recent years, and I felt really confident in my hijab because I'm confident in the way I dress. You know, I'm still modest, but I love thrifting. I love trying out different styles. I don't think I even have a set style, so I can say that for sure. When I was younger, I didn't really care about fashion and stuff because I didn't think that as a hijabi you could be stylish and whatever, you know, but you definitely can. So that's what I think changed the most. something that I wish I could tell myself when I was younger is that there's more to me than my looks, and I think that is what the hijab really protects me from. It protects me from falling into like a shallow, superficial mindset. Although I still struggle with insecurities, as everyone does, like we all struggle with insecurities, I think the hijab is really good at removing women from that. Like we're more than just what we look like, and I think it's really empowering that as Muslim women, by covering ourselves, by wearing the hijab, we're showing the world that hey, like we have so much more to offer than just what we look like. So proving that we can be fully covered and go out into society and still be just as knowledgeable on certain subjects, just as determined and just as confident, I think that's just so empowering to me. One more thing that's really important, I think, is the fact that the hijab protects us from the male gaze. I think that's just so important. I wanted to mention is Ramadan is coming up, and there's no better time to wear the hijab than in Ramadan. If you feel like, hey, maybe I want to start wearing the hijab soon, try it in Ramadan, see how you feel. Maybe you can stick through it, you know. As long as you have the right intentions, that's a great start. Just keep listening to that, you know. So yeah, that is my hijab story. Those are my thoughts on the hijab. I think that if you're struggling with wearing it, you're thinking, hey, like, should I put it on? I don't know if I'm ready. I say just put it on. Depending on your situation, it might be really hard. Just like me, when I was younger, I didn't have the motivation to stick with it because I didn't have like a supportive social community. But yeah, I'm here. Any of you watching this have questions or concerns, or you want my advice, I'm here. You can just message me. If you have my number, text me, and I'm so here for you all. I know exactly how you feel. I want you guys to look at me as like an older sister. If you're older than me, I'm your younger sister. I think the hijab is a beautiful thing, and I hope, inshallah, that maybe by watching this video, just one of you can feel a little bit more encouraged or uplifted by the thought of wearing the hijab. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Leave any questions or comments for me down in the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't. Share this video if you know someone struggling with the hijab. Yeah, I hope you guys have a great rest of your night or day or morning whenever you're watching this, and please come back next week for my new video. I wasn't able to post last week because I wasn't feeling too great, but inshallah I can keep the schedule running smoothly. Hope you guys enjoyed. Okay, see you guys. Bye.